don't really recommend that anyone take any time to watch it unless you're super into Resident Evil like myself, which I couldn't resist checking it out, and I couldn't resist the urge to be hype about it, and then get through a few episodes and it's like, the issues are starting to show now, and I could no longer sit by and not bash it. So this is me bashing it. What's good, everybody? Welcome to Whole Views. Thank you for clicking the thumbnail. My name is Corey. Today we are discussing a spoiler discussion on Resident Evil from Netflix. I wanted to take my time, sit down with you all, and go into why I come down so hard on the show after being so enthusiastic about the show when I first started watching it. If you're subscribed to the channel, then you have seen videos posted of watch-alongs for Resident Evil from Netflix, and they were posted in quick succession because I watched the first episode. I was highly impressed. I did a quick first impressions video, and then I started doing watch-alongs. But the problem with watch-alongs is that when you do watch-alongs, you record yourself looking at the episode, and then you have to rewatch the episode and edit it down to where you can get it up and post it on YouTube. I could no longer sit through these episodes 2 times. I did an episode 6 watch along and I deleted it because after episode 5, I was finished with the show. I really had to force myself to watch the last 2 episodes and get through it all. So here I am with my full spoiler analysis as to why this show is so bad. And it's only 3 reasons, starting with number 1, the unbalanced use of the budget. Hopefully I'm allowed to use this scene. This scene that I'm showing you right now is the scene that I got hooked on the episode with. I looked at this big old worm and I thought to myself, wow, the graphics here are decent enough to where I feel like, hey, I think this is worth taking a look at. The fact that the writing of the show in this moment was plausible. She was attacked by a giant creature. She was saved by some strangers in a feasible way. They put like 120 rounds on this animal. It put the animal down. She didn't escape in some type of miraculous way, free of injury. Like, no, she was injured. She was taken in by these survivors, actually ransomed off. All that stuff made perfect sense. I was like, you're giving me a believable universe. You are giving me a good-looking creature within the first few minutes of an episode. I feel like this is well done. I'm going to be enthusiastic and move forward. But then the show proceeded to roll out a bunch of trash-looking effects for the rest of the show. There were a few moments where things did look good, but there were more moments where things looked really, really bad and were shot in the dark, so they didn't have to go all out or put these expensive effects in the light of day. The Lily character from episode 5, she appeared to have just on like a mask with multiple faces. It was horrific looking, sure, but it was not very impressive graphically, and they had the big eye on the back. You could tell they spent a portion of the budget on that, but not really that great looking. The alligator in the final episode, horrible graphics on this alligator. Why choose to do so much with him in the broad daylight like that? He looked much better when he was underwater, darker settings. You put him in the daylight, it looked bad, and it's just more evidence to me that y'all used most of your budget on your effects in the first episode, and everything else was just like, yeah, we'll make it work. Problem number 2 is unbalanced storytelling. The problem I have is that the flashbacks are carried by Lance Reddick. Like, he does the best job when it comes to acting, line delivery, just being convincing of a character. All the flashback stuff hinges on him, in my opinion. The problem is that he's only a part of those flashbacks. Those flashbacks are heavily weighed down by the 2 teenagers, the teenage Jade and Billy. Horrible stuff from them, not just the actors, because I don't think that the actors do a horrible job all the time. I think they're directed very badly, they are written very badly, and the drama that they have is so teenager-ish. It feels like I'm watching CW. The Double Toasted guy said that this is the Netflix version of a CW Resident Evil, and it feels accurate when you're watching the flashbacks. Horrible stuff in the flashbacks. The modern story, when it comes to Unbalanced, is really more dealing with their spotty acting. Like there's, spots where the line delivery and just the acting in general seems off, as well as just really, really, really dumb writing in the modern storyline. Like having characters do things and say things that make no sense, which we'll address just a little bit later, a few instances. Third thing though, the unbalanced tone of the show. And to me, this is another one that is glaringly an issue with the Netflix Resident Evil show. In the flashbacks, you have Evelyn, who is almost a mustache twirling villain. She seems almost cartoonish in some of her things that she does in the flashbacks. Also in the flashbacks, you have the girls who in one moment, again, talking about their writing, one moment they're good sisters and friends to the end, and then in the next moment, they're ready to kill each other over the smallest of things. And I just can't get over how unbalanced they feel from moment to moment. It's horrible. On the back half of this season, the last 3 episodes, maybe you get Bert, who, in my opinion, Bert is a jovial, glass half full psychopath. And that makes no sense. I feel like there's no place for that in a show of this nature. And with the show, that a story they was trying to tell, it just doesn't seem like he fit all the time. And staying on that line, there's other things in the modern storyline that also feel like there's characters who are just out of place. I'm thinking specifically of the Mr. Baxter character, who was there in the first few episodes up until his death in the prison. And I'm thinking about him like no one told this dude where he was gonna, like what show he was in. No one told him, because at one point they were in prison, like riding in a prison van. They're handcuffed, impending death. There are people crucified upside down along the path, and he's talking about how much he loved SpongeBob. Like, what? What are you doing? They was locked in a prison surrounded by what they call zeros, we all call zombies, and there's gruesome stuff going on all around him, and he's picking on Jade for not being a dog person and talking about how much he misses his dogs. Tonally, he was all over the place. His action scenes in that prison episode was pretty nice, but even still, like, he provided comedy in a place where why are we giving people comedy here? It feels off. It felt off. Grown-up Billy in the modern day story is actually, from what I can see, a whole different ethnicity than the teenage Billy. Like, that's not an issue for anyone. I feel like that was a huge issue. She don't even look like her younger self. Like, they did nose jobs at between being a teen and being an adult. Like, you look funny, you look weird, you look like a whole new person. It doesn't match up. Also, she's mustache twirling throughout her appearances in the back half of the season. Like, what show did they pluck you from to be this character? She's super sinister, super evil for apparently no reason. And the interactions between grown-up Jade and grown-up Billy are just as bad and just as melodramatic unnecessarily as the teenage versions of those characters, which, again, it just invokes CW to me, and I can't get behind that. And just talking about how bad the show is written overall, like, there's things that are said and done that really truly make no sense. Let's look at one specific instance. Towards the end of the season, you have the guy who runs the university. When meeting with Evelyn, he tried to threaten her by going public with dirt on Umbrella. Sir, what public? You are in an apocalypse. The only places that we saw and that we know of from the show that people existed were either umbrella safe zones or like scavenger safe zones. Everyone was like surrounded by nets and like doing their best to stay away from the zombies. There's no stock market to ruin the company on. There's no society to be in an uproar. What are you talking about? And Evelyn, why are you even, I understand each line needs some type of response, but why are you gratifying that threat with a response? There's no reason for that. There's no reason for you to talk to that man about anything besides you getting what you want at that point, because Who's gonna stop you? Umbrella, for all intents and purposes, runs the world. There was no reference to any type of government structure. We never see a store that runs outside of that bar. We never see currency, real currency, get exchanged. What world are y'all living in to where you can still threaten the head of a company with going public with information and it be a real threat when there's no public and the world is populated with zombies like this? It's just stupid. It's just dumb. It shows to me that it's sloppily done. And that's the feeling that I came away with after getting to about episode 4. Definitely after episode 5, and then watching the show became a chore after getting to episode 5. So I doubt this thing gets greenlit first. But if they do greenlight a season 2 of this show, I would check it out. But it will be so low on my list of things to do that I'll probably never watch, because there's always something good coming out. There's always something worth being talked about that's out. And it does not rank up there in the places of things to be talked about. I just want to get on here and tell you why the watch along stopped, and why, if anyone asks me, I would say this show is trash. Those are my 3 reasons why. Super unbalanced, horrible use of the Resident Evil franchise. Hope that you have any kind of feedback on how you feel about the show. I know most people who I hear from in the internet space, they are largely negative, and they were negative straight out the gate. Were you negative straight out the gate, or did it take you a few episodes like it took me? It took me a little while. Anyway, that's all I have for this here video, y'all. Enjoy yourself, guard your heart, and go watch something